cutlass bearing. My husband and I looked at each other. It was August of 2023, and we were on our boat heading across the Straits of Juan de Fuca to Victoria. It was a sound we'd never heard before. The noise stopped, and we continued on to Victoria. Little did we know that that noise was the beginning of one of the greatest challenges we would ever face in our 25 years of boating. When we got to Victoria, my husband dove under the boat and confirmed what he had thought had happened. We'd lost our cutlass bearing. That is the thing that secures the shaft of the boat to the boat and is attached to, which is attached to the propeller and the transmission. Bottom line is, if you lose the cutlass bearing, you should not be running your boat. Well, this had happened early on in our trip over the Straits. We had another 2 hours of boating, and we made it to Victoria with grace. Now we had to figure out where and how we were going to get our boat fixed. All the boat yards in Victoria were booked, but we found a place in Sydney. It was about 25 miles away up the coast, so we got towed up there. And we waited a couple of days to find out how long it would take to transform our boat back to what it was. Our hope was it would take maybe a couple days and we'd be on our way back to boating. Well, it turned out it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks before they could possibly get us back on the water. Now, my husband and I had been staying on the hard. We stayed on the boat, we were out of the water, and that was okay for a couple of days. But 2 to 3 weeks, we didn't think so. And we really needed to get back home sooner than that. So we figured, okay, well, we'll just rent a car, go home, and we'll come back when the boat is done. Piece of cake. Well, there was not going to be any cake for us that day because we learned something very interesting. You cannot rent a car in Canada, take it to the United States, and leave it. You have to bring it back. That was not something we were going to be able to do. Okay, cross off the car. Another option available was to fly home. Now, we were in Sydney, and that's where the Victoria Airport is. So, okay, just get on the plane and fly home. Well, it was expensive, flying is, but the bigger problem was we had stuff that we just couldn't leave for a couple weeks. We needed to take home. We really weren't prepared to fly on an airplane, so cross that one off the list. So now we have one option. We need to get off of Vancouver Island onto the mainland somehow, and then have someone pick us up. Okay, we started making phone calls. We talked to our son. We talked to several friends who would, if they could, come and meet us. Nothing worked. The logistics, the timing. We were basically stuck on Vancouver Island with no easy, convenient, logical way to get home. Now, during this time, I've been talking to my friend Jane. She and her husband were also boaters, and they've been up in Desolation Sound for most of the summer. We're working their way back. And I texted her our dilemma, and she texted back, and I will verbalize it. And she's from Georgia. She said, "We can get you home. We can come get you." I went, "Really?" And she went, "Really? Really?" And they really did. They came and got us. They were probably about 2 hours away from Sydney. They came over. We had our stuff, got on their boat, and had a lovely trip home. But the word that really describes what that trip was rescue. We felt that we had truly been rescued because we were running out of logical ideas and ways to get home. Grace had shown up again. We got home, and now our next challenge is we have to get back. We knew the boat was going to be about 2 to 3 weeks for repairs, but there was a caveat in that once they repaired the cutlass bearing, they would do a sea trial. At that point, they will find out if we had caused any other damage by driving it for the 2 hours to get to Victoria. Well, that was going to be interesting. That was one of our challenges for getting back. The other one was the weather. We were going to be getting into September, so we had rain, possible wind, so we needed to find a time that we could possibly get back. This time flying made a lot of sense. Go to Payne Field, get off the plane in Victoria, take the boat back, we're done. More cake, maybe, piece of cake. We were denied cake again because the flights out of Payne Field to Victoria are seasonal. The last flight for that season was September 17th, before we were going to be able to get back to get the boat. So no flying for us. Now we were how are we going to do this? Well, we were back with somehow getting from Snohomish to Canada to Sydney. We checked with our son, he would do it, but it meant taking time off of work, and we didn't want to have to put him through that. By happenstance, I was talking to my cousin Peter, who lived in Mount Vernon. And he said, well, Lynne, if you can get to Mount Vernon, I can get you to Canada. Yes, we'll take it. Thank you. We had a trip, or part of our trip taken care of. We then talked to our neighbor, Christine, and she was more than willing to get us from Snohomish to Mount Vernon when the time was right. We had a plan. And we knew what our contingencies were. We had when was the boat going to be done, and we had weather issues. Now, my husband, as we got closer, we identified a weather window. September 21st, 22nd, 23rd looked like good times to be heading back on the boat. So we were ready with everything we needed. We just had to pray for more grace that it would all work out. On September 21st, we got the call. Your boat's done. It's working. The sea trial was a success. No extra damage. Come get your boat. And we did. The very next day, my neighbor was in the driveway at 7 o'clock. We got in her car and we went to Mount Vernon. From Mount Vernon, we went across the border and we made it to the Sydney ferry about 10:30 or 10 in time to make the 10:30 sailing, which was huge because we wanted to go in one day from Sydney home in the daylight. We had pre-planned for someone from the marina to pick us up at the ferry. They were there. We made it back to the marina and gave lots of money. When you get a boat fixed, there's money involved. We paid money and they let us take our boat. We were ready to go home. The 22nd of September, exactly 1 month to the day that we had been towed to Sydney, we left under our own power. At 12:45 p.m., we began our 70-mile, 6-hour trip home. Now, my husband and I still talk about the amazing trip home that we had. The water was absolutely perfect. It was smooth, no rain. It was a gorgeous day for a boat ride. Why not go for a boat ride? We made it across the border easily. We cleared customs with our app and it worked this time. We made a quick stop in Friday Harbor to get fuel so we could get home. And we headed toward the Straits of Juan de Fuca. Let's see, do this. And Deception Pass. This was taken that day. This is what the water looked like. It was this way the whole trip. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, initially we had planned to go to Everett, but it became evident that they might not have a place for us to tie up that night. So we decided to go to Langley on Whidbey Island, which was about a half hour away from Everett. We made our way to Langley and we got there by 6:30 in the evening, less than 6 hours from when we had left Sydney. And the best thing was I needed food for breakfast. And the store closed at 7 o'clock, and we had just enough time to run up the hill, and we got breakfast, and the best part was we got ice cream. So we spent that night celebrating on the boat with ice cream, our most amazing trip home. As my husband and I look forward to our 26th season of boating, it's hard to believe. We know that there will be challenges, big and small. And the challenges, and because of the past challenges of the past, we know that we can meet them with confidence. But also we know we can meet them with confidence because we are boating with grace. Madam Toastmaster,